Welcome back to The Gassing Station, the podcast that goes headfirst into the Pistonheads forums. Like my co-host Sam Sheehan is going headfirst into sustainable fuel ownership, usage?
Yes.
I don't know what the right
Got
term
a whole
is.
tank. Yeah.
You filled up with a whole tank?
Whole tank of literally called sustainable fuel.
It's quite... This is a hot topic at the moment because talking about sustainable fuel. It's the kind of stuff that we are very much hoping will keep the cars that we love going for much, much, much longer. So, tell me a bit about it. What is sustain and what is, how is the fuel made that they're using?
Well, first thing to say is they've been around for about 10 years now.
Oh, really?
The reason I went and popped down to them earlier in this week wasn't just because I thought, I'd get a free tank of petrol. That wasn't the reason I went there. It was because Formula One. Formula One is running on 100% sustainable fuel, and sustainable, there will be some people going, oh, it's not truly sustainable or whatever. I don't even mean to sound patronizing when I say that, to be fair, because they have a point to some extent. You still have to use energy to make the fuel, but you've got to start somewhere and things will only get better. Yeah. Not to quote a famous song, because at the moment, 10 years into, Coryton is the company based in Essex that still has involvement in conventional petrol diesel production. Yeah. They also have this branch, this smaller division, which produces sustainable fuels. And they are making rapid progress over the last 10 years. Price has come down, production efficiency's going up, and the way that they can source their resources for the fuel itself, it's just getting better and better. So Formula One will only turbocharge that, again, sorry for the pun, but it will only make this stuff happen quicker. It's shining a spotlight on it. Hopefully investment will drive up in this area. I really think government needs to take a note of this as well, because as we've seen with the delay on electric car stuff, petrol cars will be around for a bit longer. Happy days. Diesel as well, potentially. More on that in a mo. Because this fuel, like you said, could be the perfect, not just stopgap, but way to have petrol cars that are pretty sustainable, because this is the best thing, right? So before I visited Sustain, I thought that they were taking resources from something fresh, what do they call it, from the well? Stuff was metaphorically being dug up in order to provide resources. That's not the case. Okay, they use waste product from food. From various industries. Yeah. Food is an easy one to talk about. Bio, from farming. They're not growing, because a lot of people say, oh, biofuel's really bad because you have to cut down forests or take away farming land for food production to create the fuel. I see. Fair points. Yeah. This doesn't do that. This uses waste product that would otherwise either just be binned or whatever, or maybe I think sometimes it gets burned or whatever. But in this case, they take the resources, ends up in a lab, and then they can create basically the ingredients for sustainable fuel. I won't go into all the details of that, but the chemistry is really clever and really complicated, and a lot of it went over my head.
I'm not going to understand a single thing about it.
But it's effectively using stuff that is otherwise a waste product to create fuel that, as I can confirm, because my MX-5 NC 2-litre, same engine as your Fiesta. Oh, yeah. Is currently running, not literally, it's parked with the engine off, but when it is on,
it's so sustainable. You can just leave the engine running.
It's just ticking over. No, it's running on the fuel, and not only so that it's rated at standard petrol. I just said don't give me anything complicated, because they do motorsport grade fuel. Obviously, Formula One has the Formula One stuff is bespoke to each manufacturer, each engine supplier. This stuff is the stuff you can just buy from Coryton, their sustain product, off the shelf, if you will. Yeah. Although they don't stock up in Tesco just yet. And so it's just normal fuel. My car runs standard on it, smells slightly florally. That's a big change. Start the engine, you're like, the exhaust smells a bit like perfume.
So it
nice.
Even smells like it's different. Better for the environment.
You're
driving around.
Metaphorical
and
flowers.
It's kissing trees and smelling like flowers.
Yeah.
Amazing.
The key thing to say is it is emitting at the tailpipe, but the point is it's taken an emission elsewhere and then just run it through the car, and now it's coming out the back of the car. So it's not like a hydrogen vehicle where it would be producing water at the tailpipe.
Yeah, so it's more like a carbon neutral style thing of where.
And even that, and I can say that as a journalist, you can say that, but Coryton, the guys there, Suresh I met, who's very senior, he's sort of heading up much of the sales and sort of how they reach out to new customers. He was very quick to stress he wouldn't say carbon neutral because the production takes energy. Yeah. So there is but as I said earlier, with economies of scale, with everything like this, the more you do it, the better it gets. And then you shrink that, it's kind of like, I guess, if you ship 1,000 versions of something on one ship, the amount of CO2 per product is much lower. Whereas if you're just shipping 5, then obviously there's a lot of CO2 per product. So things will get better in that regard. But the key thing that I noticed, to my surprise, because they never promised any of this, and I didn't even see this online when I've researched it, the racing teams that have run sustainable fuel, they see a benefit versus conventional fuel because it's being made in such a closely managed system. The fuel is just cleaner, so there's a more consistent level of performance from the fuel. So if you went to a rolling road on day 1 and day 2, on sustain, you're probably going to have a way more consistent power output comparison than you would on conventional fuel, because one day you're getting this quality, one day you're getting this quality. But the thing I've noticed is the throttle response has improved immediately on my NC. Yeah, I can't comment on MPG yet because I haven't driven it far enough. I haven't used the tank yet, but I will do. But I've got better throttle response, nice smelling tailpipes.
Do you think that could be the difference though of where it's a higher RON?
I think it's definitely because I normally run my NC when I'm on the road on just 95. I only put 98 when I do my track days.
Doesn't need it. Yeah.
Doesn't need it, and I'm cruising around. So there's probably a little bit of that, but it's a substantial jump. The closest I've had was when in my Clio I had the engine remapped, new intake, new air intake, new exhaust, all kind of at the same time. Those 3 things combined gave me the equivalent of what I've just got. Not in terms of power, it's not feeling much quicker, but it's just throttle response is so sharper. So I think there's clearly benefit in running this type of fuel other than the sustainability aspect.
I find it so fascinating because there's a multitude of ways in which you can create a sustainable fuel. So the one that it sounds like they're doing is through waste product.
Yeah.
There's also carbon capture that I think some people are doing as well. So you're taking the carbon out from the atmosphere, and then obviously, yes, your car is going to emit something, but the crucial thing about this, and it's something that I've had a problem with, I have nothing against EVs as a product and as a way of driving them, but it's the mandating them for everything that I have a problem with, because it's very superficial. It's kind of like, oh, my car doesn't emit any emissions, so therefore it's fine. And it's like, well, first of all, no, because there's obviously the energy's got to come from somewhere. It's not always going to be clean. There's the production that obviously goes into it. Same goes for a petrol and diesel car, of course. But the critical thing is here, we're very fortunate that we live in a developed country of where, a lot of people are in a fortunate position to finance an electric car.
Yeah.
But that's not the case for most of the world.
Yeah.
And so what are you going to do? It's fine. Your little borough in wherever, everyone's driving an EV. Great. What impact is that going to make for the rest of the world? Absolutely nothing, And this is what sustainable fuel is going to be so good for, and why I can't wait to see it scale up, is because it's not the problem. It's not, what we necessarily have to worry about. It's about where people, they just need a car to go from A to B. They're not going to go, oh, well, I can't drive around now because the lawmakers have said that I have to have an EV.
Yeah.
And the lawmakers of those countries aren't going to do it because they know they're not stupid enough to go and force someone into buying a car they can't afford. So something like this, if we can get it's just a fact of life that fuel companies are as big as they are because they've been doing it for a century, So they're the ones that are going to be able to adapt. It's not a huge change needed for infrastructure, and it means that people can run cars for longer while emitting considerably less.
Yeah, and that's including the whole manufacturing process.
Whole cycle.
And, we don't need to go into details, but like some people, and there are valid points to be made, I won't bring them up here, but, some people have issues with oil company production in other ways and environmental factors, spillages and stuff. This kind of maybe is, I'm not trying to pretend it's going to be all perfect, but it would certainly probably represent an improvement. So there's a big ecosystem around that as well, that this could probably help improve. And if you've got old cars, because the key thing is the new car stuff. Yeah, it means you keep new cars running on petrol or using engines. But also, there are going to be millions in the UK alone, probably billions around the world for decades to come, still running on this fuel. So even if the UK went fully EV, America's just rode back on a load of regulations, so they're not going to go EV anytime soon.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, it's something that is, they're winding back on everywhere. I mean, it's only just a couple of months ago that the EU wound back on their plans to go, everything must be 100%, and they're like, actually, no, that's completely unrealistic. So it's a fantastic thing, and it's something that could very well then spill over into shipping. Yeah. Into aviation.
It's already in aviation. They're already working. Emphasis, this is a British company.
Yeah.
So we've got to be proud of it and hopefully get behind it. And that's one reason why I actually went. I was kind of curious to see, is this an industry we don't talk about enough? I now think it is an industry we don't talk about enough. And they are working with Airbus. Airbus obviously is massive European plane manufacturer.
I mean, emissions-wise, aviation and shipping is understandably far higher.
Yeah.
But it's not like we're all going to say, oh, God, this is really bad for the atmosphere. We now have to fly less, or we have to... No, this is the kind of thing that helps solve the problem on a mass scale. It's not virtue signaling. And I get the problem with the oil companies and stuff. However, it's like we've got to act fast with this kind of thing. This is the kind of thing that can do it. It is expensive though, right? Isn't it? So if you wanted to go and get some sustain, it's not like you can just go and fill it up for 130.
No. So, I mean, and they're very honest about this because they know that this stuff will get better. So various people are running their cars. Harry Metcalf is running his car on sustained fuel, and I think they've got a bit of a partnership going, and fair enough, because he's got a fantastic fleet on his channel, and it's very interesting to see that he runs them on this fuel. If you were to buy this stuff direct from Coryton, and now all their prices vary, but if you were to go, for example, for I think they were talking about their sort of 102 octane stuff, where they can give a bit more of an accurate price because they do sell this to race teams. It's about £5.50 per litre, which is a lot.
It's expensive, yeah.
But 102 octane in conventional petrol is about the same. So this
interesting.
This is why I don't think there used to be. Please do comment, let us know if it is. But I'm pretty sure the BP garage that used to sell 100 or 102 octane near Silverstone no longer sells that. And it was like, but that was always way more expensive than the other stuff. And the reason that Coryton are focusing on this particular fuel is because the premium market, people have a bit more cash, but also, as I said earlier, the consistency of their fuel. A race team is going to be prepared to spend £1 or maybe less per litre. Firstly, because budgets are always massive in racing. And secondly, because if it gets them a performance edge, which will be more in a consistency sense, then what you calls you bloody do it,
Oh, 100%. And just, it's the really interesting thing that I have seen, and, you've touched on it, is that people are seeing the advantages of running cars on sustainable fuel. I believe classics can run better on it.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, you can have. There could be you can have it purely running with no ethanol, which is obviously the problem on classics a lot of the time for the rubbers and the seals and stuff. So they can be ethanol-free fuel, and so it'll run better. And so, assuming it has the same performance enhancement that I felt, plus you've got the knowledge that it's not going to degrade internals the way they do. I didn't know this, but apparently ethanol can degrade metal parts as well. I just thought it was all rubbers and plastic. But there are metals that can react to it as well, especially if a car's left sitting. Yeah,
it's something that it's definitely worth considering. Because when did they switch over to E10? It was like 3 years ago, wasn't it? That's the kind of thing where it runs fine for now. But it's not, as a long-term thing, it's not the best. But, the problem, yes, at the moment is that it's expensive, but the exciting thing is Formula One's now using it.
Yeah,
they all have to use it,
and in a competitive way. It's not a control fuel, because when it's a control fuel, there's no development. There's no, the Pirelli aren't really getting much in the way. Pirelli are clearly making excellent tyres for Formula One cars, but it's not. They're not competing
exactly.
So they're not advancing every race. The fuels will.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. And they're all getting them homologated at the moment. So by the time this podcast goes out, it'll be the week leading up to the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
I don't think it will be the fuels that will be the big problem for them. I think it will be more having 50-50 split of petrol and hybrid. I think that it's well known that the rules this year are a bit of a they're complicated, but it's also what's it called? They're a massive compromise.
Yeah,
because Audi came in and they said we'll do it if we have this split and we regenerate power off the front axle, and then people said, well, no, you've been doing that at Le Mans and you'd have a massive advantage.
Yeah.
So we're not going to do that. And now they realise that they don't have enough energy from the battery and the combustion engine to get round a full lap at full pelt.
Yeah.
Which is a bit embarrassing. But the fuel will definitely be a performance variant, not as much as the battery usage, I think.
Yeah.
But it is the thing that is excitable. The thing that is exciting is how that's going to filter down, when it's going to filter down. We said the same thing about EVs when they came along. They're far too expensive. They're never going to take on. And now, like, charging stations pretty much everywhere. You can afford. There's loads of affordable EVs out there. The only thing is that it's still, that it's good from the perspective of if you're buying a car. But there's going to be people. I've nearly held on to my Fiesta for 10 years now. Yeah. 10 years next year, and it'd be great to be chopping and changing cars all the time. It's not easy. Yeah. And so you can play your bit for the environment by having sustainable fuel, and it's just going to make a massive difference to absolutely everything. I'm so excited. And so how long? It's just a full tank, and then you're going to be running it for until it's run dry.
Till it runs dry. I'm going to. Well, do you know what? If it runs as well as it does, I might even just go and buy a tank for my Clio and just think, because the fuel lasts long. This is the thing, because I only use the Clio during the summer months, and like you, I've had mine for a long time, since 2011, and so the fuel often in the winter months at least, I'd always leave it parked up with a low amount in it anyway, so I can brim it and it's all fresh, and it's only parked up for like 4.5 months, so it's fine anyway. But knowing that I can have a tank in the back of the garage that I rent, I can have this sustained fuel that won't degrade because it lasts longer because of the way it's made. It will cost me a fortune. So the more I say it, I'm like, will I actually do it? But I'd love to. I'd love to buy a tank of Sustain and say, this Clio is running on sustainable fuel, and I'm not going to have to go to an actual fuel pump probably for over a year, probably 2 years.
It's the annoying thing of this is the time of where it's like, well, we're the ones that are raving about it. We should put our money where our mouth is and do something like it. So, but it would be cool to have it. And being able to store it for a longer time just makes it even better.
Well, they sell them in the big things, I don't know what they're called, the big cylinders. But once I've finished with it, then I can turn it into a table.
Yes, exactly.
Tabletop, sustained tabletop, put a bit of glass on top.
And then when someone comes into your house and they go, oh, is it not a bit... a bit bad to have an oil can in your house, and you go, well, actually, it's sustainable fuel.
Give it a smell; it'll smell a bit floral. I
won't
have to have any more
flowers.
Scented candles anymore. I wonder what the grid's going to smell like, by the way, the Formula One cars, because they're all going to have their distinct fuel smell potentially now.
The funny thing is, though, that I've not been able to smell that. This is such a strange thing to say. Not smelt the Formula One grid this year, but I have heard what it sounds like. Yeah. And it's the funniest thing in the world for anyone who's not. We sometimes mention Formula One on here because it's, if you're a car fan, there's a good chance that you're going to like some form of motorsport. Even if you're not a Formula One fan, this year's interesting. Yeah. Purely from the perspective of when the lights go out in Australia, it could be chaos because it's a new regulation set and everything. One of the really funny things, though, is that there's the cars last year. They had an MGU-H, so it was a basically it could recover energy from the turbine, but it could also be used to spin the turbine up. Yeah. I believe. I'm not an engineer, but I think that's how it could work. Yeah. So basically, when they did a race start, there was a motor that was spinning the turbine up of the turbo. Yeah. To peak RPM, and as soon as the lights went out, they were ready. Yeah. They don't have that anymore, so they've got a turbo that needs to spool up to about 100,000 RPM. Yeah. And in the time it takes to line up on the grid and the lights to come on as they would, is not enough time. So there were people that were like anti-stalling up. They were kind of saying like we're all going to be kind of sitting ducks essentially at the start. So they've had to extend the start procedure by like 10 seconds. No, 5 seconds before the lights go out, and then the lights come on. Yeah. So they can all spool their turbos up, but they're not. Anytime I've watched Formula One, it's always, even with launch control, it used to be kind of like around about. I'm picking a number out of thin air, maybe like 7,500, 8,000 RPM. It was always quite low. Now they just have to they just have to rag the hell out of it. So you've got 22 cars on a grid just screaming their heads off But not even for the lights to come up. They're screaming your heads off for like
spool.
10, 15 seconds
Yeah.
just to spool it all up.
God, can you imagine the inlet
Really
temperatures
funny.
and everything? Because they haven't got any fans or anything. It's all air cooled, isn't it?
I know.
It's just going to be sky high temperatures.
Imagine them all just blowing up.
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
Oh,
Can't be good.
That's why you should watch it. Not only are you going to be watching stuff that will genuinely translate into your road car way more than all of the hybrid rubbish that they were talking about in the last generation. This stuff actually matters. But if you watch the Australian Grand Prix, I bet you it's going to be utterly chaotic. I am really excited.
And the Ferrari starts in practice.
Oh my God.
Insane. It's like Usain Bolt versus the school running
apparently
team.
they've got a smaller turbo, so it spools up a lot faster.
Right.
And I think, what was it? The one I saw yesterday was Lewis Hamilton on 11th on the grid or something, and was leading by the first corner.
Yeah.
Just flying. Anyway, that's enough about Formula One and racing.
Although I will give you an MPG update next time. I should.
Yes, please. Yes.
That one.
Oh, yeah. Yes, because we're all for sustainable fuel here, and it means that we can continue to be piston heads. Speaking of stuff that every PHer will love, Alpina.
Yeah.
So this news is a little bit late, partly because we haven't actually had anything really big happening recently, but this kind of arrived between our podcast recordings, and I thought it was a good idea to cover it. So, as we all know, BMW has bought Alpina. It did that a couple of years ago, and what we've had in the last few weeks is a new, updated Alpina badge. How exciting. If you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, I will put an image up of it now. If you're listening to it, basically what it looks like is the Alpina badge of before, but slightly modernized and now, would you call it monochrome?
Yeah.
It's basically, so it's like before, it's got the throttle body and crankshaft in the middle, but they are now, the background of it is transparent. There's no color on it, and crucially, they've removed the shield, the Alpina shield.
Yeah.
So it looks a little bit more. It's modernized.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, some people think it's a downgrade. Some people don't really care. I'm a big Alpina fan. I think it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I was about to say, if the cars are good, it'll be more than forgivable. It's nothing too substantially changed. It's very recognizable.
Precisely. And they've also updated the Alpina lettering.
Yeah.
So which we had seen last month. I think it was in early January that they showed off the kind of updated typography. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
But what BMW did reveal is kind of how it's approaching this rebrand. So there's been some questions about what they will actually do with Alpina and why, because it seemed a bit out of nowhere that it bought Alpina.
Yeah.
Nick Cackett did a really good original story when it was announced, and I think the way he put it was Alpina is a manufacturer at the end of the day. It is it's not a BMW offshoot, it's not a tuner, it's a manufacturer, and so is therefore subject to the same regulations that other manufacturers have with safety and electrification. So it made sense at this point, after they had like a record year in sales, that they then move things on, pass it over to the big brother, and let them deal with it. Which makes a lot of sense. So there was this fear that maybe BMW would go down. I mean, we were talking about XM, the XM territory at this point. This is when they had announced it. So there was some fear that they wouldn't be really doing this justice. We still don't know how that's going to look. However, what it has announced is that it's going about this very sympathetically.
Yeah.
It seems to really understand why Alpina has a cult following, and it really doesn't seem like it wants to tread on the toes of, or it really doesn't want to start turning away its very, very loyal customer base, because it's a very niche product. And I think if you don't, they'll obviously be wanting to add to that, but if you turn away the initial buyers, then I don't know what would they be left with, essentially. So what we've seen so far is they've released a teaser image of a revised version of the multi-spoke wheel.
Yeah.
It's a really clever design, this, actually, because even though it's multi-spoke, it was considerably lighter than the BMW equivalents. That's why they used to put them in. Yeah, and it got to the point of where they even, to keep things streamlined, the valve for the tire pressure valve,
is actually
inside the spokes.
Oh yes, I do. I know about
So you
this.
take off the center cap, and then there is the
Yeah.
valve, and so it's a pain in the ass to top your pressures up, but
It's very clean.
It's very, very clean.
Yeah.
So from the teaser image, it looks like an Alpina wheel. It
Yeah.
looks like they've done it properly. They've also said they're going to be doing slight tweaks to all your favorite colors from Alpina. So that usually means a mix of greens and blues. And the really important thing is that it's not going to be it's not going to be like they're on a production line. They go, oh, this one's an Alpina, go just shove a better door on that. They've cherry picked the facilities where the cars are going to be produced. So, and in their words, that it's basically up to the superior quality that people expect from an Alpina.
Yeah.
So all the signs at the moment are pointing to them basically continuing at least where they left off. So I thought what it would be a good idea to do is, first of all, say what we would like to see from Alpina, what we would like them to avoid, but also what would be the cars that we would go after if we wanted we can't call it a merger because they've kind of taken over the pre-takeover period of Alpina, the independent era of Alpina. So, Sam, you an Alpina fan?
Because you've had a long relationship with Alpina, haven't you, via your dad?
Love Alpina.
I didn't. Even BMWs, to be fair, on average, I've always appreciated them, but I've never sort of had they were never sort of in the family too much. But
as a helmsman, that surprises me.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, I do love them, and I think actually, as we said last episode, I'm often a fan of cars that people don't like as well. From BMW,
XM?
I think, not the XM. Despise the XM. And I'm not so keen on the latest design language, but Alpina have always seemed, even at times I think when cars from BMW haven't looked the prettiest when they were new, Alpina's always come out and everyone's gone, "Cool, that looks good, doesn't it?"
Good example. Do you remember when BMW put a really big snout on the 7 Series? It was the first of the big grills.
Yeah.
That was a properly hideous car. It was stupid. I hated it because it was so like, oh, we just put a bigger grill on it, it will sell more. No. When the Alpina version came along, with the body kit, it was the chin just sat a little bit deeper, and I'm not saying it fixed it, but it made it more palatable.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And even the modifications they had, you look at the M models of late, sometimes they can get a bit garish, a bit ridiculous, and a bit like carbon stuck on here and there. But the Alpinas have always done it so lovely. But my the time I really got Alpina, by this point I'd already got BMW, but then I was like, I really get it now, was when I was at PH last, and I was riding around I think it was I was trying to find the review, I can't bloody find it in my 2 seconds of researching, but it was the D3S I was driving.
I see.
Diesel. I mean, prior to that, I'd never been interested in diesel, other than I can appreciate the fuel economy, of course, but I'd never wanted diesel. Suddenly, I was driving around in this D3S. I think it was, what year was this review? It would have been this era. So it was written in, so it would have been about 2020, let's say. I think it was early 2020, 2019 when I drove the first one. And the engine was it felt like such a step up, but still recognizably BMW in that car. That lovely 6-cylinder, really gravelly, really torquey, but so smooth in its delivery. Wonderful engine. And the gearbox was also mapped to match that. And then it felt perfectly matched to the chassis. Yeah. The way they seem to be so supple and genuinely so, really comfortable, even when they've got the rubber band tyres. And yet they still have fantastic body control. You can just feel that everything's gone not just up in performance, but up in comfort, up in finesse, up in finish. And all of those things combined equal just a better car.
Which is exactly what BMW needs to focus on with this. And I think they know they'd be stupid to make it more sporty. Yeah. Because that's what M is for. But it needs to have that kind of everything's elevated. Yeah. To a superior level. I mean, really, it's going to, price-wise, it's not going to fit into the gap between a regular BMW and a Rolls-Royce, because Rolls-Royce is obviously so high. But there is that kind of gap in the market of where it's a more luxurious version of a car that will be familiar, but no one really does what Alpina does. No, nobody else. All other tuners are about performance, and yes, it makes a lot of sense because it's a relatively niche market, and people are going to be therefore after something that is more focused and not as comfortable. But I love this idea, and I don't know why more people don't do it. Is let's go and take a bog standard car that's already very good and just make it as perfect as it can be. Yeah. Which is, I would never consider a diesel, but when my 4 Series is, my time with it's done, I would absolutely love a D3.
That's one, yeah.
They had been on my radar, but
Yeah.
to find the right one was probably a bit out of budget.
The other thing actually that I did like to throw in is that they work really well on British roads. That's a key point. So many cars, including BMW M cars sometimes, you get the impression that they've been developed on a smooth German surface.
Yeah.
But an Alpina just works here.
Well, I was talking to a friend of PH at the Sunday service at the British Motor Museum, and they were talking about their 340i.
Yeah.
And they're saying, it's brilliant in every single way, apart from the dampers, which are rock solid and are horrifically uncomfortable. And I'm like, you're living with that every day.
Yeah.
As a daily driver, and if it's that firm, get an Alpina.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what we want to see them do. What I would like to see them avoid is, and I think you won't see this because I think that BMW's already winding it back, is that cars like the XM, like the iX, were going after a very glitzy luxury. There was the crystal gear lever. It was very goldy. The XM had the gold accents, and then they did the red lipstick edition. What do they call it? The red label.
Yeah.
It's just a horrific, where it's black with red snout. It looked like a baboon's backside.
Yes.
But the great thing is that I think they've realised that was a step too far.
Yeah. And I think they will, hopefully, this will go nowhere near that.
That's
what
like
you
I
said.
really want them to avoid.
Yeah.
I know they're not going to make it too sporty. It's more the problem of making them ostentatious. The idea of an Alpina is that it's, I know they've got the stickers down the side, but it is a relatively subtle thing. You have to know. If they continue that, it's going to be absolutely sublime. They're probably going to want to sell more than Alpina would, though. So I don't know how they're going to handle the limitedness of it. Because I think that's a big part of Alpina's appeal as well. You're part of a little club of where it's... I mean, there's the Alpina register, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
So is that going to be a thing anymore? Or are they going to be just selling it as like, you have your 320, your 3... What's the most powerful three? Do they do three? They do three M340, don't they?
340i, yeah.
Yeah. So 320, 340, and then they're going to be like, and here's your Alpina B3 as the one above that,
Yeah, but you're right. That's the thing I was going to say is, like, obviously, it would be amazing, and they could do this. Some brands do just have cars as part of their lineup just as a... they have to turn a profit, but it doesn't have to be squeezed for every penny.
Yeah.
It'd be amazing if that were the case here, but it probably will they probably will increase production numbers, you'd imagine.
Yeah. So I thought before we get onto our buying challenge, I think the pre-acquisition Alpinas are going to become extremely desirable, like the pre-merger AMGs were. There's obviously a lot more to choose from, but we've got a really good selection of Alpinas on the classifieds at the moment, so I thought we could have a look through and see which one kind of takes our pick. I've got one that is going to be very much out of a lot of people's budgets, and I've just seen Sam's, and it's even more expensive. But the one that I have, we've got plenty of B3s, we've got a few D3s, there's a B7 on there that I really like the look of, but the one I love, and I wrote a story about this a while back, is a B6 3.5 S.
Yeah.
So what that is in regular speak is it's an E30 M3, which is what makes it really special, because Alpina doesn't tune M cars.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It hasn't done before, and it hasn't done since, except for this very car. They built 62 of them, and it's just as marvelous as you would expect an Alpina E30 to be. So it retains the same look. This one's in blue with the gold deco pack. However, the big difference is the engine. So, normally an E30 would have the S14 four-cylinder, 2.3 litre, nice and revvy. This one doesn't have that, but it instead has the 3.5 litre M30 straight six.
Oh, yes.
Which seems like a match made in heaven. I know there's a lot of people who have done straight six swapped E30 M3s or E30s in general, but when it's been done by Alpina, it's been tuned up to 260 horsepower. So the stock one was 218. They then tuned it up to 260. So a huge amount of power. Obviously, it's got a bit more weight, but it's an E30 M3 with what would then become the signature BMW sound.
Yeah.
It is a lot of money if you want it. It's £185,000, which is more than an E30 M3.
Yeah.
However, I drove an E30 M3 last year, and while it's special, it's not actually that interesting.
Yeah.
It's a bit not the most exciting thing to drive, whereas I think this thing would sound good. It would feel faster.
Yeah, definitely.
But above all, would feel exceptionally special as not just an Alpina, but as far as I could tell, correct me if I'm wrong, the only M Alpina ever made.
That's very, very cool. How many miles has it got, this one?
84,000.
Oh, that's great to see.
How cool is that?
Yeah, properly used. Not
84,000. So you can use it.
I was about to say, you can. I mean, someone's probably going to go, oh, can't take it over 85. But I think that's ready and ripe for usage. And the seats inside, by the way, gorgeous.
Oh, absolutely. And we all know that an Alpina gets better with age and mileage. So go use it.
Yeah. Now, I would have been sensible and chosen the 17 grand B3, the E36 B3.
That is nice.
Convertible that's on here, which is lovely, 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 lovely. But I have to shout out a car that is, well, makes your car look like a bit of a bargain, really. Although, actually, having said this, also, I mean, it's 275 grand. I'm just going to say it. Over £250,000. But it is a Z8 Alpina.
It's, which is, I think they, to call it its official Alpina name, the V8 Roadster.
Oh, yes.
And I mean, it looks like a Z8.
Yeah.
They didn't put like an Alpina kit on it, but it does have the Alpina wheels. But there are some big changes.
I mean, they work on everything, but they really work. Yeah, I didn't even know this. You were telling me it's got a completely different engine.
So
earlier.
What was weird about the Z8 is that it was a BMW Roadster with an M engine. It had the S62 V8 from the M5. But the one in the Alpina Z8 was the M62 V8, which is the starting point of the S62, but it was the standard engine. Yeah. And
it was shared, I'm learning this from the ad, it was shared with the B10 V8 S Alpina.
Yeah.
So it's an engine that Alpina has worked on for another model. But in here, I mean, it's just obviously going to be focused a little bit more, I guess, on comfort, effortlessness, and that's doubled down on because it comes with the Switchtronic Auto ZF as well. But it still has, I mean, there's no power figure listed here, but I bet it's not short.
381 horsepower.
There you go.
But the other thing to consider as well, it's an auto.
Yeah.
So the Z8, the regular Z8 was a manual. This is an auto. The thing I'd say about this, because this got reviewed quite poorly by Top Gear when it came out. However, I drove a Z8 a couple of years ago, and it was great, and the engine was marvelous. But it is a bit of it's a cruiser at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's an M engine in a very cruisy roadster. Obviously, I like the fact that it was manual, but I think the route that Alpina took is probably more in line with what the car is.
More of a cohesive setup.
Exactly. And it looks great on the Alpina
I was just about to say, it's worth the extra cash for the wheels on that car.
Oh, big time.
It looks so good.
Marvellous. So, basically, the long and short of it is I want an Alpina really bad.
And now I do too.
We've sorted out what Alpinas that we're going to buy, but we need to help a PH and need. And this week we've got a post by Loafers92 who says, "Hi all, I'm looking for a car to use on supercar rallies I help organise around Europe." Very cool. Yeah, that's why it caught my eye.
Yeah.
Something that can be quick on mountain roads as well as hold a decent pace on long sweeping roads too, while not being too flashy. This is a car that will be used as an occasional lead/mid-pack car in bigger groups. Something not to hold up too many folks that are running behind in stuff like Pistas, 918s, LTs, GMAs. Won't be possible in open roads, but could still be quite quick.
Just
in
the shopping
twisties.
Run cars, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Pop down the shops in the 918.
In your GMA.
Yeah.
The requirements, quite reliable, somewhat discreet, but also interesting looking. Interesting, fun to drive, not front wheel drive. Nothing against it, just not for me. So it's so funny. Whenever we see something about front wheel drive, nothing against the front wheel drive. It's just I'm not into it. Could hold its value in the next few years, and it will be used as an occasional weekend car or a track car as well. So something that can be used for that. So far on the shortlist, Audi S1, GR Yaris, an original BMW M2, and a 987 Cayman. They like the idea of an Alpine A110, but it's a bit out of budget. What we've got to work with here, Sam, is £35,000 to £40,000. If you give us a range, we're always going for the top. If you're going for a job interview, you don't give them a bracket. You just say, this is the most that I want. What are the suggestions? So, you've been having a dig through the classifieds.
Yeah.
What you got?
I got a little selection here. Well, we just spoke about Alpinas. I'm going to go to a Bogo BMW, but an M-tuned one. It was quite an obvious choice, so I won't spend too long on this. I've gone for an M240i.
Oh, these are good.
They're the one I
it's
found.
A new one.
It's a new one. It's got just under 10,000 miles. It's still on its first owner, 2024 car. It's £505 under. Was it 40 grand was up to, wasn't it? Yeah,
yes,
so £505 change for your sustain fuel. And not being sponsored by them, I just really like it. And you've got obviously a car that is, in many ways, I would say, all the performance BMW you never need.
These are going to become rarer and rarer, in my opinion, because it was hard enough trying to find a straight six BMW for the generation that I bought, let alone the newer ones. I mean, they are getting rarer and rarer.
That's it.
So I really like these. I think they look really smart.
They do.
I've yet to drive one. That's a lie. I've driven the 220. Which was perfectly good. I thought it drove brilliantly. Obviously, it would have been very lovely with a straight six in it. 370 odd horsepower.
Yeah. When these first got revealed, I hated the back. Don't mind it in black now. I think that one looks like quite good.
I'd say this one's with a black rear end and the kind of goldy wheels.
Don't mind it.
It looks very smart. That will definitely be a marvelous all-rounder. Will it catch people's eye? Not entirely sure, but
in that group it won't.
In the group, no. But it's the kind of car that you could own and you'd look back on and go, yeah, that's mine.
Yeah, I think it's great. And with the X-Drive all-wheel drive, if you're trying to cling onto the back of a hypercar, you might get out. You might get a bit of traction out, keep up with the 918 for 15 centimetres. That was the obvious choice, I thought. But I thought, let's go for something a little bit prettier, a little bit more exotic feeling, if not actually probably as quick on a twisty road because it's a bit older and rear-wheel drive.
Doesn't matter.
It's a little bit cheaper, 38,995. Aston Martin Vantage. It isn't the S. There was an S in budget.
Okay.
But it was an auto.
Okay.
And I thought, let's go manual.
Yes.
Because it's more fun.
Good man. Yeah.
So we've gone for 2014. It's the 4.7 though, because they did a smaller one, the earlier one. And manual. So it's going to be lovely gearbox. Not the quick. I have to admit, they're not the quickest. They aren't the quickest. 420 horsepower, but it's naturally aspirated. So it doesn't absolutely explode out of corners. But if you work it hard.
Per desirable cars at the moment.
Beautiful design.
And being a 2014 means, yes, it's not an S, but it's a... I think the trick with these was to get the latest one you could. It's the trick with any British-built car.
Yeah.
Buy the one that's as late as you can.
Yeah.
Because we're always finding problems, and we're always fixing them.
Yeah.
And so I think by the time it got to then, it was really a very, very well sorted out car.
It was.
Pretty damn tough. Really good with that with the manual gearbox.
Short wheelbase, such a beautiful beautiful balance.
That's the thing as well, is that they are small.
That's it.
And it's going to be great as it's something you're not going to be worrying about squeezing through tight gaps or kind of feeling far too boxed in on a European mountain road, unlike the people in Zondas, GLAs behind you.
If I could afford the fuel and to purchase one, this would be very close to the top of my list of a sports car I'd like to own.
It's a great car.
Lovely car.
Great shout.
Another British car. And also another one that you could have argued gets better with age. The later ones are a bit more polished, I think. It's an Evora S. It's a Lotus. It's got the V6 engine.
Oh, yes.
It's a 2012 car, London Olympics year, so it'll be a very optimistic production year. Queen was jumping out of helicopters back then. 44,000 miles. It's the first owner of this car that's selling it by the looks of things, which is always a good sign when it's been owned for this many years. Obviously, it's a manual. It's got that lovely and reliable 3.5 litre motor. Toyota engine. But it might have been made less reliable. I don't think so, because it's such a tough motor.
Yeah.
Because this one, from factory, they had 345 horsepower, but this one has 400 horsepower because back in 2018, It had a little trip to Hoffman's Lotus, and they fitted an upgraded supercharger. So you get the lovely wine. TVR 1900 apparently at Harrop.
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar with my supercharger codes, but it has lifted it up to 400 horsepower.
Yeah, they
which
reckon
is marvelous.
Sharper throttle response. Oh no, that's part of the sport pack, but I don't doubt that it will have sharper throttle response with a bit of
feel a bit sharper.
Sort of titanium exhaust, and because it's in this lovely shade of cream with a very subtle, very very subtle
That's
stripe.
What really it strikes me actually is that it's the white stripe down the centre,
very subtle,
nicely, very subtly stands out. Really, really cool spec that.
So it will turn heads a little bit, but if you're next to a 918, it might just blend in.
Also, if you put a free-flowing exhaust on that, the noise will be better than a lot of the... that would sound better than a 918.
Yeah.
I think. They do sound really blooming good.
Yeah.
Great choices. Good little selection there.
I'm looking at that Lotus going, would I take one over the Aston or would I have the Aston? My heart's for the Aston, but the Lotus is probably the better driver's car, actually.
Well, have a listen to mine first and then see if it steers you one way or the other.
Okay, let's do it.
So the first one genuinely made me go like, wow, you can get this for $39,925. It's an Audi R8 4.2, so it's the V8. Yes, it's an R-tronic, so it's not the preferred gearbox.
Not click-clack.
Not click-clack. It's just, I don't know what the paddle shifter version of it is, because they're not clicky. They're like they're like the little kind of like the sound.
Okay.
However, 20,000 miles, 3 previous owners, and a full Audi dealership service history.
So pretty.
And I mean, and it is quite good to get a lower mileage, a well-maintained one of these. I don't necessarily know if the mileage has got much to do with it, but the dampers on these cars are famously quite expensive to replace. So getting one that's very good is worth pursuing. It's a beautiful spec of like a light metallic blue,
lovely
with
colour.
the black shield. Remember when R8s had shields?
Yeah,
they sort of ditched it for the newer ones, which is such a shame.
All I see now is TTs badly modified with them.
Oh god.
Yeah. That and
horrible.
3D gel plates in the bin.
Yeah, about to say the shield only worked on this car.
Yeah.
And it's so pretty. It's aged marvelously. But something about it, I feel like it's such an obvious choice. I feel like it's just a gearbox away from being perfect.
Yeah.
And the reliability side, they are quite reliable if you take care of them, which this one has, but you've got to really look after it.
Yeah.
So I thought, if this car goes wrong, it can't be that hard to sort out, because it's basically some Ford running gear and paper mache.
Yeah.
It's a Noble M12 GTO.
I bet a lot of people watching and listening were like, it's going to be British with what you introduced that with.
Oh, yeah.
What is it?
British.
It's going to be British.
Although I think these were made in South Africa. There was a bit of controversy in that, but which I won't go into now because it will take forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I drove a Noble M12 shortly after joining Pistonheads.
Oh, wow.
And it was I drove a TVR Sagaris, and then a few months later I drove a Noble M12. And they are still two cars. I think they're my two highlight cars since working here. Shows you how often I drive stuff at PH now.
I think they're both very cool cars in general.
It is fantastically. It's a fantastic car. You get in it, and yes, it feels a bit homemade.
Yeah.
There are parts of it that look quite homemade as well. And in fact, a lot of the switchgear is not just shared with my 2005 Fiesta ST. It's from the previous generation Fiestas that we were talking about in the last pod. So it doesn't feel premium, and the steering wheel at the time felt a little bit Fast and Furious. But my God, to drive, unbelievably good.
Yeah.
Such a sharp front end. I mean, it's so responsive. But the ride quality, it sounds so silly to pick out the ride quality, but you look at it and you go, that is just going to be stiff and horrific. No, the ride quality is absolutely sublime. It does without an anti-roll bar, but it's just really, really well damped, really well sorted. Yeah. I don't know what the reliability's like. It's got a 3-litre V6, but I think it's a Ford derived V6, so it should be pretty strong, but I adore these. I think they're so cool. Slightly left field option for the last one is I feel like this is a real all-rounder. It's got 4 doors. It's very racy. Reliability, should be strongish because it's Japanese.
Yeah.
It's an Impreza STI S206.
So cool. I mean, when these were first revealed, because there was a hatch, wasn't it, initially? Is that
It was a hatch. It was a hatch, and then they released this version.
This version, yeah.
So they did the fancy version of that was the R205.
Yeah.
And then they released this.
Because that was controversial, the hatch.
Oh, big time. Yeah. Because the standard hatch was awful.
Yeah.
And then they did the STI and it was better.
Yeah.
And then they did this, which was the first saloon after the hatch.
Yeah.
And it looks marvellous.
I was just about to say, it looked great with those wheels as well.
Especially in blue mica, like this one is. So it is the Impreza spec.
Yeah.
It's got the... I don't know how you would describe those. They were BBSs on the S204. They might be the same, but they just look fantastic. It's got a carbon wing, carbon splitter. But essentially what the S206 is, I believe, it used to be anyway, it was every option on the STI catalogue ticked.
Yeah.
And the previous generations of this had suspension tuned by Peter Solberg. So it's a properly well sorted car. This one was kind of when they started dabbling with the Nürburgring. So it's a bit like, I know that it's a cliche to say the such and such version of a GT3, but it's kind of that stripped out track car focus thing. And because it's got 4 doors, if someone prangs their car, you can whack them in the back.
Supercar drivers crashing? What?
Never. Absolutely not happening. It's more just in case the car just spontaneously combusts.
Yes,
that always seems to happen to supercar owners.
Yeah.
34,995. So it's a little bit. It's on the lower end of the budget. So I've helped there. I don't know which one to choose. I'm kind of.
It's a good selection.
Gravitating towards the Subaru.
It just looks so cool. Although the R8 is pretty.
It was. Pretty. I'm not gonna. I've ruled out the R8. It was between this or the Noble.
I mean, the Nobles for the track day stuff will be the best.
The Noble for track day will be the best, and they don't want front wheel drive. And bearing in mind the front wheels are driven in this as well as the rears.
Good point. But he did list the GR Yaris in that.
Oh shoot! Yeah. Okay.
So
I'm going with this STI S206. Sold.
Exactly. There you go. So I'm going to go. I'll stick with the Vantage. My heart's in the Vantage. I mean, it might be too slow. They're not slow.
Yeah.
But getting out of the court, a tight hairpin up the Swiss Alps.
Yeah.
You might have a bit of a traction issue, and that 918's just shot off, and you're there going, but you won't care.
But they'll be going, oh, look how efficient my hybrid deployment is. Well, you'll be smiling.
You'll be in,
and that will be the best, the most important difference.
You'll be in second gear, about to click into third, and it's
actually shift into third, not pulling a paddle.
Yeah.
So those are our choices. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a vote on Spotify. So if you're listening to this on Spotify, you can choose my car or Sam's car. It's just nice to know if I've beaten him at something, and I can lord it over him. If you think that, however, we were both rubbish, what I'll do is I'll put a story out of this on the Pistonheads homepage with a link to the original forum post, so you can jump in there, submit your own ones, and just go, Sam, what on earth are you doing? It's also worth checking PH Auctions for this, because we are infuriatingly recording this a couple of weeks in advance, and it means that the auction cars that I have right now that I think would be perfect will have sold by the time that this podcast goes out. So here's what you could have had. We have got a Series 2 Lotus Exige S. Oh, it would have been brilliant for something like this. Light, fantastic, feels really special. We'll probably keep up with all of those cars and cost a fraction of it.
Amazing on track.
We've got a Lotus Esprit V8 Turbo, but not just any car. It's the original show car from the Lotus factory.
Cool.
Express car, show car. It looks absolutely marvellous. And we've got a no reserve GR Yaris. All of these cars will have sold by the time that this goes live. So keep an eye on auctions, because there will be better cars coming along, I promise.
Do you know the GR Yaris would probably be the one that's the most hilarious to see in a photograph of that convoy?
Yes.
Because it's the most, those in the know will know, but everyone else would be like, why is there a hybrid Yaris in that lineup?
Why is there a Yaris leading this pack?
They'll be confused because it looks so similar to the normal hybrid one, don't they? From afar.
It would absolutely be keeping up with them, especially in the tight, twisty stuff.
Can we just shout out how many tabs you have open and how many different things? You can't see this on camera, but just imagine a laptop of chaos, and that's what I've just seen.
It's one of those things where when you're doing the podcast, you have to have 1,000 tabs open for switching between them, but it's... it's just a mess. Luckily, we've only got one more topic to cover.
Aha.
This one is by Eternic54. And they say, I was on low fuel tonight and quickly stopped at Birch Services to see how much it was. £1.57 per litre. While stopped for just a minute, I checked to see if there was another fuel station nearby. 4-minute drive and 1.4 miles away was a Texaco. Very easy to get to, and the fuel there was £1.30 per litre. 27 pence per litre cheaper just for a small amount of effort. That's nearly a £20 saving on a single tank. Which makes me wonder, aside from company or fuel card drivers, why would anybody pay for fuel at a motorway service station other than poor forward planning and laziness? Most cars even have on reserve fuel will do 40 to 50 miles until they are actually empty. So there's no reason why someone would find themselves in a situation where they haven't got enough fuel to get off the motorway to a local station. Well, my 27 pence on this is
very nice.
First of all, filling up your entire tank at a service station is probably not the wisest idea. I think if you're savvy about it, you won't do that. So what I usually do if I have to stop off at a service station, it is because of, it's been put down here as poor planning. Yeah, sure, fine, but it's also, I don't go into every single drive. It's not a pre-flight check.
Yeah.
I don't go, we're starting here, we're going here, these are going to be my stop-off points, and, we'll be landing with mild weather at 17:47.
Yeah.
It's I've got to go now, and then I'll be driving along, and I go, I need to fill up. I'm on the motorway. I thought I could make it. Clearly I can't. In my Fiesta, for instance, the fuel is measured in blocks. Mm-hmm. So when you get to about half a tank, you've got like 40 miles. That's maybe not
really,
that much, but
yeah.
it's like, the way I picture it is like a funnel. So full tank will get me really quite far. Half a tank is going to drop really quickly.
Right.
So sometimes you just find yourself going, oh, damn, I've gone to half a tank. I really should go and fill up. Well, not half a tank, maybe like a quarter of a tank, and I just need to go and top up. And I'll top up maybe, say, 20 quid, 10, 20 pounds.
So you might
just
spend
to
a couple
get
of
me
quid
home.
More. Yeah.
Just a couple of quid more. Yeah. But that's my, oh God, that's my only option. But, sometimes when you're on the motorway, there's the fact of if you pull over, because you've got to pull over to go and look for other fuel stops. So let's say I've pulled over at a service station to go and find another fuel stop. And let's say I'm looking for 5 minutes to go and find another fuel station, and then go out of my way to go to that fuel station to then go and fill up and save myself a little bit of money.
Because you're not brimming it. Because the point they make is if you brim it, it's 20 quid. Yeah. If it's an extra 4 or 5 quid, sometimes you're like, I'll just go over it.
Yeah. Then that's what I'm going to do. Because I would rather I'm like, okay, it might cost me a few quid more at most, but it's worth it to not go massively out of my way because I want to go home and I want to.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah. Even that extra 1.4 miles, it adds a 10 minutes there and back on, because you're probably going to have stop-start. And if it's 2 a.m., I've had times like that.
But Eternic54 does have a very good point, though, because he is right in this, or they are right in the sense that some people will pull over and they'll fill up their whole tank, and it's going to cost them an absolute fortune. Oh, yeah. And you, Sam, being the investigative journalist that you are, have been crunching numbers.
Yes, I have. I've been looking on the internet, this famous place with data, and I've got some official statistics. I know, it's horrendous. Official statistics, actually from a reputable site. And currently right now, the average, did you know, Cam, that the average cost of petrol per litre in the UK right now, or at least as of the start of this month, February, it was in the UK £1.32.
Sounds about right.
That sounds about right.
And I think Sainsbury's has a very similar one.
I think that's pretty much bang on. Yeah, £1.30 was what he or she quoted, so it's pretty close.
Yeah.
Can you guess? Well, you can because you can see it now. But would you have guessed the gap to services? Because there is a figure, the average figure for services, and I think it is. Is it on what they were saying? It was. So the number was pretty much bang on.
I remember that the last time it really stood out to me. So most of the time I think it's in the mid 150s, but I do remember in 2021 stopping at a service and it was 179 for unleaded.
They actually got higher. I'm sure I remember a time when it was a bit higher somewhere, but I can't.
I saw a stat at one point that said that there was a filling station in Chelsea somewhere that was charging mid 250s.
Yes, that was it. Yeah.
Just staggering that anyone would bother doing that.
Well, a service station now in February, and probably they're pretty consistent at the moment, is 25 pence on average more. So that's £1.57, which is exactly what they said in their post, was what they saw. So that's bang on. So we've been crunching the numbers. And in fact, actually, by the way, if you run a diesel car, the difference is, by coincidence, I don't know if this is always the case, 25 pence again. It goes up from £1.41 to £1.66 or £1.67 actually, but let's call it 66 because it's £1.89, about 26 pence more. So the same difference. So that means if you're doing 12,000 miles per year, which is about average at 30 miles per gallon, if you do a mixed driving, it's not the highest. Some people get more MPG, but we calculated that. That would be 1,818 litres of fuel used over the year. And with your extra 25 pence premium, that means you'd be paying over £450, £455 exactly more per year in fuel costs if you only filled up at a service station, which is quite an extreme
I was going to say, but the thing is, I was just thinking that. I was like, who's actually going to fill up?
Who's going to do that?
But it will happen.
Yeah.
There will be someone that lives, their closest filling station is a service station, and maybe that's all that's in there. They're like, I've only filled up at this filling station, and so I'm going to do it all the time. Whereas they could be traveling 5 minutes down the road and filling up at a proper place. Some people will just do it. When I see someone turning up in a massive SUV and they fill it to the brim at a service station, I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this?
You just reminded me. My Bucky's water bottle I purchased in Texas at a service station a couple of years back.
That doesn't look like an English.
Coincidentally mentioning this holiday. I had one holiday in Texas. I'm like, I went to Texas. Not that obsessed.
It clearly left a mark.
But it was just always interesting. I think because it's a lot of car stuff there. It's a very car state.
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
Bucky's, the reason I bring this up is because you could theoretically and quite happily fill up only at service stations in Texas. And this isn't an ad for Bucky's because I'm sure other service stations there are the same price, but it's my relevant.
Not that anybody cares.
Represent it.
I think our American audience is extremely small.
For the one American that's listening to this, who's probably based in the UK, that you might know that the fuel cost in a service station in America, in Texas, I've converted this from dollars to pounds and obviously from gallons to litres, is 52 pence per litre. This is at a service station, so theoretically the worst case scenario, although I don't even know if they're more expensive over there. There's so much space over there, maybe it's not more expensive. I don't know. 52 pence per litre. That's why it's so cheap to fill up. So you could, there's a use case in America, fill up at services. Who cares?
The only thing...
Mad.
When you mentioned this to me earlier, I was like, that is horrifyingly cheap and annoys me immensely. But then I realised that their fuel out there is a bit like their beer.
Yeah.
Watered down.
Yes. Well, their normal beer, because they do have a...
Oh, yeah. I think we've spoken about the Boston beers that are just like, they're kind of compensating a little bit too much. The funny thing about this, though, is that, so for those watching, or those not watching, I should say, Sam's brought along a water bottle that's red with the Bucky's on it, and it's got the logo of the service station. And it looks very cool. It looks very American. But it did make me think, like, well, wouldn't it be really funny if there was someone in America that was going around with a water bottle that just said, like, Moto on it?
Yeah.
Or like, what's the other one?
Moto, Welcome Break.
Welcome Break. That's
Road
what I was
Chef,
thinking
are they still going? Extra? I'd like a Road Chef
Extra.
one.
I remember the Extra.
Welcome Break.
Yeah, just Welcome Break.
Sounds like a masseuse in a slightly dodgy part of town.
Oh, nice water bottle there, mate. Where's that from? Oh, it's actually a chain of service stations in the United Kingdom. And they were lovely. I went into the toilets and one of them worked.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, just to cut in, Moto services, all the other ones, they're fine. Bucky's is a different world. It's like B&Q, Tesco Extra, DFS, and maybe even a car dealership, and like NASA all combined into one. Toilets are gigantic. There are like 100 fuel pumps. It's mad. If you've not been, Google one. Google the images.
And did you go into the bathrooms and were people able to go into the bowl, or did they just go wherever they could find?
The toilets themselves weren't so massive, but it was the toilet room was gigantic. But thankfully the cubicles, the stalls, it was all normal size.
Yeah,
it's just impressive. But the price is what matters. We should also mention that electric car drivers aren't off the hook with this stuff. Pricing, that is.
Oh yeah.
I didn't see any charges at Bucky's. I don't think they even know what electric cars are over there. But
what the hell is that?
Is that a microwave? So in electric car land, and I know this because I did run an EV for quite some time, and we test them sometimes, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
You charge at home. It's really cheap. You can fill up, if you've got a 100 kilowatt hour car and you charge at home, the average cost of electricity apparently at the moment is about 20 pence per kilowatt hour, which has actually gone up quite some.
Yeah, it used to be quite a lot cheaper.
I think it was about half that only a handful of years ago.
God.
So that's doubled, but it's still really cheap. So if you, and this almost never happens, but if you have a 100 kilowatt hour battery car and it was on 0%, a true zero, which as I said will almost never be the case, and you charged it to maximum, that would cost you £20 because it's 20 pence per kilowatt hour. If you use a motorway charger, a rapid charger, slower chargers are a bit cheaper, but who wants to sit at services for 9 hours, unless it's this, then you're going to be spending about 75 pence per kilowatt hour, which means your charge is 75 quid.
Yeah.
That's £50 more to charge up your car.
I had this was back in 21 when energy was a lot cheaper. I had a Taycan Turbo and a Cayman GT4 back to back. So one week I had the Taycan, next week I had the GT4. I had such a good time in both cars. Original Taycan. It was as EVs go, it was brilliant.
I love them.
It cost me the same amount to run both of them
because service.
Because of so I didn't have a home. Still don't have a home charger, so I had to use a public charger, and it was about 35-40 quid a pop to charge it up. And we're talking from say 20% to 90.
Yeah.
So it was a fair amount. But because the range was small, I had to do it more often.
Yeah.
Whereas I did the GT4 in one go, and it was like 90 quid. So it was
but it lasted you.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, it was about double the range, which was hilarious. So yeah, I mean that's the whole point of. That's why I don't bash on electric cars. Is that if you own one. If you have a driveway at home or something, you can put like a home charger in.
Yeah, they're much cheaper.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So much sense.
And some of the council run ones, because then people say, oh, well, that's street charging. So where I live, all the lampposts on my street are converted to have charging ports. And they're 25 pence per kilowatt hour. So it's a small jump on a home charger. So even when I've got an EV, I can charge up most cars for overnight as well. I think it drops if I'm not mistaken. And I'll come out and it'll be fully charged and it would cost me 18 quid. And that's when you're like, I could definitely get this.
Yeah.
If it's a company car in particular where you're not paying for the car itself as well, you're like, all I'm paying for on my private life is the fuel. You have a massive saving in that regard, unless you charge at services.
But there we have it. There is another episode of The Gassing Station. My God, we got through so much today. That was a lot of topics. Very, very juicy. If you enjoyed what you listened to, please leave us a 5-star review, maybe some nice words too. It's not to stroke our egos, it definitely helps a little bit, but it's just so that we know we're on the right page and it helps spread the word about the gassing station and get it to more people.
Oh, I've just seen that's appropriate, gassing station. There we go.
I know.
We're so on topic.
God, I was so busy talking about important journalism stuff, I didn't think that, we are a literal gassing station. Yeah. Sam, anything that you would like to end on before we reconvene?
The update on my MX-5 sustained fuel was one thing I'm very excited about. I'm running on a tank of that.
Yeah.
But there's something even more exciting coming up.
Oh my God, you've not told me about this.
I know. It's brand spanking new news. Like the email only came in like 10 seconds ago. And
oh my God.
And I was like, oh my God. So yeah, I've got big plans for that car this year. I know that's classic MX-5 owner. I've got big plans. And then you find all the rust and you go, plans cancelled.
It's exactly what's just happened to me.
Yeah. But stuff coming up. It's going to be fun. It's going to be cool. Hopefully I can get out and do a lot more track days as well and bring it to some events.
We've got some Pistons track days coming up. Yeah.
Once I've got this bit done.
Hopefully see you there. And hopefully see you there as well. We'll find out about Sam's big news when I see you next Tuesday.